What is going on in South Africa? Now, we all know that the ruling party in South Africa that has been ruling since the dawn of democracy, 1994, for over 30 years, they lost their majority in 2024 elections. They got about 40%, and as a result, there was no outright winner in the election. They had to be a kingmaker, somebody who decides who will be the political party that is ruling. And what we see, or what we've seen, is that the ANC and the DA have formed a coalition. Now, in the beginning, they were talking about a government of national unity and saying everybody's going to work together, they're all going to come together. But in the last minute, we all saw that politicians like to use words that are very misleading. They lie to people. And at the end, they just end up doing what they had planned to do. And what we saw is that the DA and the ANC are now in coalition. And this is very odd because it is two political parties that are completely different, that stand for different things, that believe in different things, and that are founded and created for different reasons, that are basically coming together. And a lot of people are asking questions to say, what's going to happen? Is this the right move? And I wanted to delve into this so that we understand exactly what is going on in our country. Now, we all saw it unfold. What happened is when the national government had to sit for the first parliamentary seating, we all saw a coalition nation. DA's Anna Lee makes history, becoming the first DA member to become a deputy speaker. Now, the ANC took the position of the Speaker of Parliament, controlling Parliament through Toko Didiza, and the deputy of the Speaker, basically the person controlling Parliament, is a DA person, Anna Lee. And the president is obviously Cyril Ramaphosa, who was the former president, and now he still is the president. And what we are seeing, we're seeing for the first time in South Africa, two different political parties come into coalition. And I think it's important that we stop calling it a government of national unity, or stop calling it unity, and start calling it what it actually is, which is two political parties that are completely different that have now come together. And you know what a lot of people are saying that this is going to hurt the ANC. And I saw a lot of tweets coming out where people are saying that the ANC is going to die because of this. What are your thoughts? What do you think? Now, the Democratic Alliance, the party which the ANC has now come into a coalition with, they were the biggest rival of the ANC, and they're very opposite from the ANC. They believe in free markets. They're traditionally a white minority party. Many of the leaders there are white, and the ANC is different from that. And really what we see is South Africa is sitting on a over 30% unemployment rate. We're in crisis. There's a lot of things that are not working properly in South Africa. And we're seeing this coalition happen. What does this mean for our country? What does this mean moving forward? Now, the reason why the ANC had to go in coalition is very clear. Jacob Zuma started MK Party and took a whole chunk of the ANC supporters. And as a result of that, the ANC is now stranded because majority of the supporters are already out. And people are saying, because of the move that they've now done of joining the DA, they are now going to even lose more power, because people are saying that they've never, ever wanted to work with the DA. And we're seeing a lot of things happen that people have never thought would happen. And I saw something on Twitter that I want to share with you, and I thought this is quite interesting. And it's a post here saying, I don't think the clever blacks who voted for DA and ANC understand what they just did. The poor will get poorer and the rich will get richer. DA-ANC. And I want you to listen to this video.
I want to talk about the invisible hand of the market and the impact it would have if we actually followed and supported the Democratic Alliance's policies when it comes to scrapping minimum wage and allowing the market to find the level. As Helen Ziller said,
the point is you let the market regulate that, not me. It's got nothing to do with Helen Ziller. When I employ people, as I have in the past, look at what I've paid them and look at that's between me and the person. Do they want the job?
Is that an approach of a government?
Yes.
That you decide whatever you want to pay your workers, and if the worker's willing to accept 500 rand a month, that's okay. Is that it?
Let me tell you what is okay. What is okay is to allow the market to find the level.
So let's talk about the market finding the level. And we are going to look at a tragedy that recently happened under the Democratic Alliance's watch in George. So the Western Cape government is now going to be looking at all the structures that were built by this particular developer. And also the death toll was 33. It's gone up to 34. One of the hospitalized victims passed away in
Now, as you
hospital.
can see, the social commentator is clearly explaining to us the dangers of what we're going to see as a country, to say the principles of these two political parties are different. And she goes on to say that in the Western Cape, where the DA is the majority in the Western Cape province, the poor people suffer under the DA government. And the nuances of saying, let the free market decide, let not have minimum wage, all these issues are beginning to come out when a building actually collapsed in the Western Cape, and people checked and said they weren't documented, things were not done properly, people were not paid the right amounts. A whole conundrum of things came out, and people are saying, does this make sense for the ANC to go and partner with the DA if they are so different? What about all the other political parties that were more aligned in their principles and policies? Why could they not align with them and go for the DA? And I want to know from you, what are your thoughts regarding that? What do you think about that? Now, for me, I think a very important thing as well is their policies on privatization. It would seem that this country is entering a dangerous place where people want to sell the country. They want to break everything down into smaller pieces so that they can own it. Break down ESCOM by allowing breakdowns to happen, by allowing load shedding to happen so that people can own independent power stations. Break down Transnet so that people can own independent, or rather own the railway network. Break down our harbors so private sector can own it. And these are policies that the DA is implementing and already doing in the Western Cape, because a lot of things, they've already planned privatization of a whole lot of things. But the ANC, their policy was actually not privatization. So we're seeing an ANC that used to say that they will never privatize, they'll keep things in the hands of the people, the nation will own things, they'll keep things regulated by the government. We're seeing them now join hands with a government, the DA, that says privatize and sell everything. And the one thing the ANC has done over these past few years is a lot of things have broken down. Our rail networks. Now we're talking about health, another policy that the ANC says they believe in, one health policy of giving everybody NHI. And the DA says, no, they don't believe in that. They believe in privatization. We're seeing two political parties that don't even agree coming together. What's the background story that we're not being told about this? Could both these parties be funded by the same type of people? Could these people actually want to come and privatize everything, own electricity, own water, own everything, and the poor become poorer while they own everything and they control the country, they control the resources? Could that be what is going on? And I believe we must pay a closer look at this, because if we don't, we might miss out on the bigger picture here. If both these parties are being controlled by the same people, if both these parties are being funded by the same people, it doesn't matter what they say out in the public or what they read out in the manifesto. We look at their actions and what they actually do. And that should be the concern of South Africans, to say, are we headed to a government where everything is going to be sold off, where we're not going to own anything, and we're just going to have global superpowers or people that, run with the World Economic Forum, owning everything, and every single person in this country will not be able to benefit from what is inside the country? And we already see this. In the Western Cape, it's already happening. It's already happening. Outsourcing everything to private sector, leaving the responsibility to billionaires to basically run the state. It leaves the country or the state in a very weak position. And that's the scary future that everybody's saying, to say we need to be careful about what's going on in South Africa, because we don't want to find ourselves in that state where those things happen. Now, a lot of elections also happened in the provinces, as all of you know. Provincial and national government are two different governments that function in South Africa. And there were elections in the national government where the speaker, the deputy speaker, the president were all elected. And also in the provinces where basically the leaders of the provinces, the premiers, or the governors, as you could call that, where they were elected. And we saw two provinces leave from the ANC. Now, the ANC used to actually run 8 provinces in South Africa, and one was run by the DA, which is the Western Cape. And this time around, the ANC has actually lost another province, being KwaZulu-Natal. And a lot of people are talking about that. In KwaZulu-Natal, it was very contested. There's a coalition there. And we're seeing that the IFP and the DA voted together. Now, again, the IFP was funded by billionaires from Stellenbosch, the Oppenheimer family. Now, the DA is also funded by the same people. We're seeing them now going into a coalition in the KwaZulu-Natal province, a province where there were already talks about traditional leaders losing their land. There's already talks about weakening the authority of traditional leaders. And we're seeing capitalists that have participated in the apartheid government and were funded and controlled the apartheid government. We're seeing them fund now political parties, and these political parties, or the people that they funded, are now leading in the province of KwaZulu-Natal. And I think this is also very dangerous. We must assess things properly. Otherwise, we lose sight of what is actually happening. Are traditional leaders going to continue owning land in KwaZulu-Natal? Is the Ingonyama Trust going to still continue? These are questions we need to ask ourselves, because when elections happen and leaders make decisions, it's not about just, oh, this person was elected in. It's about what ideology, belief does the money that got that person there, what is it planning on doing? And that's really what we need to look at. And it was really, really heavily contested. They won through, it was 41 votes that won. And the other leader that was protested by the MK party, they got 39. So it's really close. And I think in KwaZulu-Natal, if just a few leaders vote otherwise, it can really swing, either direction. So it's really, really close in KwaZulu-Natal. But yep, the IFP did win, and with the DA, and that's what we saw in the province of KwaZulu-Natal. Now, let's move on to something also quite interesting that happened. And I think this is also quite important for us to actually note, is that in the KwaZulu-Natal province, it is a province where the MK party actually got the largest majority, which is over 40%. Now, in the national government, the ANC got 40%. They are ruling in national government. But in the province of KwaZulu-Natal, the MK party got over 40%, and yet they are not ruling because of these coalitions. So what we are seeing is that coalitions are now meddling in with even the will of the people. Because if the people of KwaZulu-Natal, majority of them voted for MK party, the MK party should be leading. They should go into coalition with somebody they should be leading. But if we're seeing that that's not happening, why is that not happening? Because coalitions, deals that were made at national are now infiltrating even provinces. So people in the province that want their province to be ruled in a certain way now no longer have a voice because coalitions are being done. And there have been lots of rumors that some of these political parties are led by the Freemasonry. They're led by occults. They're led by people that don't want to see the country progress. And now we're seeing that these things are even now affecting even the provinces that exist. Now, another heavily contested province was Gauteng, where the ANC did not win a majority. We also saw there in Gauteng that Panyaza Lesufi is now back, and Panyaza Lesufi is the ANC premier candidate. And as a result of that, we are seeing that the coalitions that happened at national are now infiltrating even the provinces. We're seeing that people, the parties that agreed on national are now forcing the parties that are agreeing in the province to do the same thing. And I don't really agree with this notion, because if people in a province are willing to vote for another political party as a majority, why is it that the minority parties are now ruling because their bosses are now telling them what to do? Are we not electing leaders that are able to think and answer to the people that elected them? Are we electing leaders that are answering to the funders that gave them the money? Really, is this how our nation should be run? Is this how politics should actually work? These are questions that we all need to answer. Now, in Gauteng, and I think this was a sequence that a lot of people are alluding to say, because this has happened, we're now also going to see in the municipalities that municipalities are going to break down, and we're going to see the same sort of national, provincial coalitions go into municipalities. So even in the municipality, we're now going to have the same sort of leadership stuff. And people are saying this is dangerous because essentially you're having leaders of political party forcing down what should happen on every level of government. And what usually then happens is the will of the people is not really heard. Why do we have to vote in 3 different governments, which is national, provincial, and municipality, if the same people that are at national are going to basically say, do whatever we tell you to do, or follow whatever these things or these meetings that have been held, or these cults, or whatever agreements that they've put in place, whatever they call it, have been set. Why then do we have 3 different elections? Because we're supposed to have 3 different elections, because we're supposed to have leaders that are supposed to represent their people differently in each of these spheres in government. And I think this is a conversation that many of us need to look at and also think about. But an interesting thing that also happened in the first sitting of Parliament that happened in South Africa is that we saw the EFF, the 7th Parliament's urgent business is Ramaphosa's impeachment. This was said by Floyd Shivambu, who is the deputy president of the EFF. And I quickly want to show you this clip so that you can see for yourself what he said.
Speaker.
Yes, I can hear.
No, thank you very much. We have sent you a letter using Rule 119 of the National Assembly rules to request that you should invoke Section 8(9), subsection 1 of South Africa's Constitution, to invoke the impeachment process in relation to the report which was tabled here in the National Assembly in relation of Mr. Cyril Ramaphosa's involvement in the Phala case. So we have sent you that letter that is an immediate issue of focus and area of focus, and a motion that should be invoked as per Rule 119 of the National Assembly rules, that the immediate urgent motion that we must attend to should be the impeachment process of Mr. Cyril Ramaphosa for the case which was established to have prima facie basis by a panel which was led by a former Chief Justice of the Constitutional Court. We have also delivered the hard copy letters to you now, and the Deputy Speaker of the Democratic Alliance, so that you can pay attention to it as a matter of urgency. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much.
Now, it's a very interesting take of what's going on in Parliament, because the DA used to be the official opposition, and they and other political parties used to challenge the ANC, and they also used to say President Cyril Ramaphosa should be impeached because of Phala. Now that they're in coalition, it essentially means that the next party should be the MK party, which is the official opposition. But because the MK party did not attend the first sitting of Parliament, they are actually having a press conference tomorrow where they're going to be releasing information that we're all anticipating and waiting to hear, which I will ensure that I do go live if there is something that I need to share about that. But what we are then seeing is that the EFF then sort of becomes the official opposition. And the official opposition is saying the first thing we want to do is we want to impeach the president. And if the president is impeached, it means that the next president that's going to come in will be whoever will be the deputy president. Now, who's going to be the deputy president? Is the deputy president going to be Paul Mashatile? Is it going to be John Steenhuisen from the DA leader? Who's going to be the next president of our country if the president is impeached? Now, you will remember the public protector is the former public protector of South Africa is part of the EFF. Now, as a result of that, they already have a lot of legal eagles in their political party. They also have advocate Mpho, who's quite well known in the political arena. Are they going to successfully impeach the president? If they do impeach the president, what then happens in our country? And these are questions that we must engage with and get to a point where we understand these things. My opinion on what is going on is that South Africans were misled when it came to voting. Many South Africans had always believed that the ANC would never go into a coalition with the DA. And they voted for the ANC knowing that that would not happen. But now that it is happening, many of them are now regretting their votes. Were they deceived? Were they lied to? Is this a deception that covers many of them not to be able to see? There are so many things that we had discussed before elections to educate South Africans to say, these things are happening. You need to open your eyes and be aware of what's going on. And now that these things begin to unfold, many of them are sitting in regret. And you can go out on Twitter, you see many of them saying that they were misled. They are very upset about what's going on. They are not very happy about things, the way things are unfolding. And for us, really, we must ask ourselves a question to say, we're a young democracy, 30 years in. There's a young generation out there that needs to really pay attention to what's going on so that history never repeats itself in the next and upcoming elections. We all vote wisely. Take a look at this clip from Julius Malema, the leader of the
Madam
EFF.
Speaker, congratulations to you. And you know very well that under normal circumstances, would have ordinarily supported you because we believe in your commitment to a parliament that is going to work effectively and efficiently. We have an experience of working with you even before, and we do not doubt your capacity. Our contestation of you was necessarily to contest the betrayal of our people, and it has nothing to do with you as an individual. Congratulations, Mr. President. We accept the results and the voice of the people of South Africa, which was expressed on the 29th of May. And we also accept the results of this today's gathering because it's a reflection of a democratic practices. But we contested because we wanted to demonstrate to South Africa that we do not agree to this marriage of convenience to consolidate the white monopoly power over the economy and the means of production in South Africa. This marriage, it's a marriage that seeks to undermine the changing of property relations in South Africa. We refuse to sell out. We have never done so when we're young, and we're not going to do so today. We don't have a history of being collaborators. We are going to ensure that this parliament is functional. We can reassure you that we will not fight with any bouncer. We are going to be the best and effective opposition that is going to ensure that both you and the DA are held accountable. This is not a government of national unity. This is a grand coalition between the ANC and the white monopoly capital.
Honorable
History
member, your
will
time
judge
is
you
over.
and judge you harshly. Thank you.
Now we see Malema there coming and saying, history will judge and they will judge harshly. Now I want to bring this point to South Africans to say, let us remember this point. We cannot allow things like this to continue. If you vote for a political party that has certain principles, it only makes sense for that political party to align with another political party that has the same principles as your political party. If you vote for a political party based on their manifesto and their principles, and immediately after elections, they go and partner with another political party that is opposites from them, what does that mean? How is that moving what you voted for, the principles that you voted for, forward? And this is not the first time it happens. It continues to happen. And that's why we continually say we must educate ourselves about the political system and how things work and why it's important to be involved and vote. Because if we don't, we see these conundrums that don't make sense politically, where policies are going completely opposite. How's the country going to move forward if there's a Bible scripture that says two people cannot walk together lest they agree. These two political parties do not agree on principles. How are they going to walk together? It would seem to me like there's another hand, a billionaire, funders, as Julius Malema said, white monopoly capital, forcing them to agree. They are not going to be able to work together. And what does that mean for the people? It means, are we going to get a government that's going to be effective and able to ensure that a country moves forward? Does it mean another 10 years 5 years of us going ahead and not actually effecting change in our nation? These are questions that every single South African must ask themselves and think about clearly. But it's not all gloom and bloom. There is one story that did make me smile. The election of the premier of Limpopo, the first female premier in the Limpopo province. And the reason why this made me smile is because we must start to see women lead. It's so important. And firstly, we've got a speaker, which is a female in our country. And now we have the first premier of Limpopo as a female. And she's not only just a female, she is Dr. Phophi Ramathuba, a medical doctor. And she has served, she's very well known for her work as the MEC of Health. And she is very active on Twitter. And I know a lot of people say that, just because a politician is active on Twitter does not mean that, they are going to be responsive or they are going to do their work. And my argument to that is always, if South Africa is majority youth, the ages of 18 up until 30, that's the majority of our country, young people. And where are the young people sitting today? They're on social media. Got over 20 million people in South Africa on social media. If a politician is not available on social media where the people are, and if they don't answer to what people ask them on social media, where are they answering? On email, where only 1 or 2 million people send emails to politicians? Where are they answering? So I allude or I applaud politicians that are active on social media, but that are active at answering what people ask them and that engage with the public. And that's important because when politicians engage and when they are active, we hold them accountable, but also we have a track record of what they said, and we can use that even in a court of law to say, but the politician was supposed to or had said. But politicians that don't come out and that just serve and they are not known and they are quiet, for me, that's a strategy that we can't hold them accountable because we don't know what they're doing. You can't hold somebody accountable if you don't know what they're doing. So that made me smile to say we're seeing a female leader. She's coming on board, and I really hope that the people will allow her, the province will allow her to lead and really change the Limpopo province, because Limpopo is one of the richest areas in the world in terms of minerals, growth. Everything grows in Limpopo. And we really hope that she'll be able to turn that province into a global superpower. But our hope, it's very limited because it's only one individual. It's still the ANC. It's still the same old people. Are they really going to effect change? And lastly, one of the things that we must start to think about as South Africans is, what does the future look like in our country? Is our economy going to grow? Are jobs going to be available? What does the future look like? And my advice to you is to say, for the next couple of years, there is a lot of uncertainty. And in places where things are uncertain, there tends not to be growth. There tends not to be change. There tends not to create environments that allow businesses to thrive. And as a result of that, it's important that you protect yourself so that the political system does not end up harming you, your wealth, and your finances. And that's why I've dedicated to say, I'm not in parliament. I didn't get enough votes. Only got 20,000, about close to 20,000 votes. But I've dedicated myself to say, I'm going to be creating content to teach people. And my content that I'm creating is going to be 4-step. The first one, political content, to ensure that you know about politics, you know about Arise South Africa, and you are growing as a political activist and preparing for the 2026 elections and elections ahead. So that's going to live on the Arise South Africa page. So ensure that you follow that page so that you're able to get that content. The second piece of content I'm creating is called the Best Finance Show. And that's where I teach you how you can become your financial best. While I was on the campaign trail, there were so many people that said to me, we want to learn about cryptocurrency. We want to learn about blockchain. We want to learn about AI. We want to learn about finances. I want to learn about stock exchange. We want to learn about economies work. We want to learn about how money moves. And that's what I'm going to be doing there. So that's the second page, the Best Finance Show. And I'll leave the links in the description so that you're able to follow these pages. The third thing is Cyber Digest. As you all know, I am the Fourth Industrial Revolution Commissioner in South Africa. And as a result of that, I have a lot of knowledge on the Fourth Industrial Revolution. So I'm going to be teaching you about AI, about blockchain, machine learning, robotics on that Cyber Digest page. So ensure that you go ahead. And the last one, the fourth one, is going to be Fix Africa podcast, which airs on Monday. Every single Monday at 9 a.m., Fix Africa podcast airs, and you're able to actually get involved in knowing about how other people are growing in their spheres of life and influence. And I said 4, but it's actually 5. The 5th one is the political content, commentating and helping you understand on what's going on politically, and also sharing my thoughts and hearing what your thoughts are. Please ensure that you like, you subscribe, and you share this video with at least 10 people, because I believe it's important that we educate the nation on what's going on and we prepare them for the next elections, 2026, where they are going to vote better and wiser, where we're all voting for Arise South Africa. For now, that's